Thanks all for joining. We'll get started. I see a couple more people joining, so we'll get started here just in a minute or so. It's right at the top of the hour. We appreciate your time today, and we got some interesting topics to go through. For everybody that's online, feel free to ask any questions via the chat or the Q&A as we go. Want to make this interactive, make sure it's worthwhile, a good use of your time. So we again appreciate your time as you're joining. We'll give everybody another minute or so to get on. I think in this brave new world, as we talk about efficiency and productivity with web meetings, everybody joins right at the goes from one meeting to the next, so joins right at the top of the hour. So we'll see everybody coming in. So I'll do a kickoff, and then I think I see a couple more joining in.
Sounds good.
Okay. And we will record this session. Start that right now. So just so everybody's aware, this event is being recorded, so if that's not something that you're comfortable with, please this would be time to leave. So we hope you don't. We hope you stay. So again, we appreciate your time. And so my name's Dan Cernarich, and I've been working with EFI for quite a number of years, and we've got a couple of good speakers today. So we'll go ahead and get started. The topic today we wanted to talk about is maximizing productivity in today's print environment. So we've got a couple of ways that we're going to show examples of how EFI can help with that productivity, maximizing productivity, right from the beginning, right from the the original workflow or the digital workflow, all the way through the actual print production. Just with the again, in today's environment, there's a lot of people that are trying to do a whole lot more with less resources, right? So how can we have more automation throughout the entire process for a few reasons? Obviously, and there may be some where we need to save because we have less labor or newer workforce, so we want to make sure that the workflows are efficient. But also with the supply chain issues and things that are affecting general work, we want to make sure that all the work we do is very effective. And how can we maximize the use of our media, maximize the use of the operators, make sure that the printer is doing more of the work itself, and we can do it with less operator involvement along the way. So those are some of the things that we're going to walk through today. We're going to walk through. We've got two presenters. We've Chris Showalter, who's on right now, is the worldwide sales manager for our Fiery for Display Graphics suite. And we want to walk through we've got some great additions and great updates and new features in that suite that really hit on the idea of productivity. How do we make sure that we can be as productive as possible and maximize the resources, again, whether it's people or media or pre-press time, all of that, to be as efficient as possible. And then we're going to walk through how does that translate into the printer. So if we take some things on the front end and get an efficient digital workflow, how can leverage that in a printer? And we've got our North America Customer Experience Center, Bruce Bain, is going to be walking through taking that same workflow and then walking it through the 30H as an example of efficiency. So with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll make you presenter as we go through. You should have it here shortly. And again, we appreciate everybody's time. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat window or in the Q&A section. Chris, is it coming over to you? It doesn't seem.
Not yet. So I can't share yet.
Yeah. Center. Sorry, I had another box. I had to hit one more click on there.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. You can see my slide deck, right?
Sure can.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Dan already gave the introduction what we're going to cover, but just roughly, at least from my side of things, I want to give you just a very high-level overview of the Fiery Display Graphics suite. What are the things that we are trying to focus on, or what we are delivering to you, hopefully. Then I'm just going to give you a little bit of introduction why one of those products, Fiery Chop Flow, is quite interesting. But today we're not going to do a deep dive into this one. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the Fiery Prepid. Why? Because A, it's a brand new product, and B, the timing is just, you know, I don't want to say perfect, because obviously the timing is horrible. I mean, we live in a crazy world, but not only do we have supply issues with hardware, computers, motherboards, CPUs, etc., we actually start seeing supply issues with media now. So a lot of you probably have problems getting their hands on the media. In Fiery Prepid will reduce your media usage by 50% or more for the right jobs, and I will explain what I mean with that. And that's obviously quite significant and a super low investment from a financial standpoint, and all fully automated, so making it easy and streamlined. But I will show you that both on a couple of slides, but I don't want to do that by PowerPoint. I definitely have the product installed as well. I want to show you the product and how we would create a layout like this, and then we will actually see if everything works right, how this layout arrives in Manchester with Bruce Bain, so he can show you how we would print it and what functionalities you would have on a printer to make your life easier. With that said, please type in questions while we go. Nothing is better than getting some challenging questions while I talk. This will make this more interactive.
I did get one question came in already from one of the participants. They only see themselves and they're wondering if they're the only ones online. No, there's many people online, but you only see yourself as a participant. We get the visibility to everybody. So again, ask questions, as Chris said. Happy to take them as we go through. Thanks.
Perfect. So what is the Fiery for Display Graphics suite? End of the day, we're considering 4 products to be part of this suite. Number 1 is Fiery Chop Flow. And again, I will have a tiny teaser about why Fiery Chop Flow is interesting. Fiery Chop Flow is a pre-press automation product. So if you're thinking ESC automation engine, N-Focus switch, Prinergy for argument's sake, all those pre-press systems, they're a competitor for Chop Flow. Actually, not really, because Chop Flow is different, because Chop Flow is easier and more affordable, right? So, and we will see why that is rather important. Then obviously we have the Fiery XF product line or Fiery Pro Server product line. So this is the Fiery RIP that is able to drive inkjet devices. So that can be the Epson Mutomimakis of this world for proofing and or production, but that's obviously also the EFI ViewTech, EFI wide format, Reggiani, Bolt, etc., etc. So the RIP or digital front end to drive inkjet devices. And as a reminder, we are the only company on the planet that has one user interface, our command workstation, that can control any device within the facility. So that means shuttle inkjet, that means single pass inkjet, that means nanotechnology, that means toner devices, Xerox, Konica Minolta, Ricoh, etc., all from one command workstation. Any Fiery-driven device can be controlled from the centralized hub. Which obviously is nice from a learning curve standpoint and from a stability standpoint. Number 3, that's the Fiery Prepid. That's where we're going to do a deep dive today. This is completely RIP independent, same as Chop Flow, by the way. We don't want to lead with limitation. We want to lead with value. All those products work independent of each other. And Fiery Prepid is a focus to sit in front of whatever RIP and create layouts for print and cut. And this will happen in a fully automated manner if you want to. And it will save you 50% or more media if you have chops with shape or you use double-sided, and I will show that. Last but not least, EFI IQ, that's our cloud solution to monitor Fiery-driven cut sheet toner devices or EFI printers like the EFI ViewTech or EFI wide format printers. I will not cover that. This is a great fit for you, actually. So Fiery Chop Flow is a browser-based solution that can automate your workflow. So it's a PDF workflow, PDF to PDF. So PDF pre-flight is a file that I'm getting good or not. PDF optimization, so changing fonts, spot colors to process, changing overprints, adding cut marks, bleed, you name it, approval process, routing, full scriptability, etc., etc. So this is a real workflow. But talking about workflow, do you want to automate, and when? That's an interesting question, right? And I want to show you some statistics. And yes, I know this is a very old statistic, but I will have a newer one. So this one here is from 2015, so 7 years ago. InfoTrends asked, I think like 200 or something print providers, are you automated today? And are you planning to be automated, right? And 10%, well, 9.1% said, yes, we are automated today, which is not a lot. But 76% said we are going to automate within 2 years, right? Because already back then there was margin pressure, and life was still better back then. But already back then, 76% fully realized we need to automate, right? But the same or similar study was done in 2019, and now instead of 10%, 12% were automated. So not even close to the 76% that we're planning to automate. Right? And that's even a couple of years later, right? The expectation was for 2017. So what happened, right? Clearly the industry wants to automate, but they don't. And in that same study, they asked for top 3 reasons why you're not automating. And it's really 2 if you think about it. So number 1 is lack of skill, or, a product is simply complicated. And frankly speaking, if you look at Enfocus, Switch, Ask Automation Engine, and I know I mentioned them before, but they're beautiful products, very powerful, nothing against them. They're complex. I mean, you need a dedicated person that works those products, right? And that's a major commitment for you. And number 2 and 3, which are the same reasons, it's too expensive or the return of investors unclear, right? So they're complicated and expensive. And that's exactly where Chopflow comes in. So Chopflow is using Enfocus Pitstop technology. So it has the same PDF quality than an Enfocus Switch, for example, right? But it's a super simple user interface, as you can see, a couple of modules that you piece together for a workflow. And it's very affordable at $4,590, right? So easy to use and affordable. So it's addressing all those limitations why you do not automate. And you have to automate because you have margin pressure. But doing a deep dive into that is another session. And please contact me if you have any questions. chris.showalter@efi.com. So let's do a deep dive into Prepit. Prepit is the media saver. And as I mentioned, we live in a time now where it's actually hard to get a hold of your media, and the media prices are going dramatically up. It's a client-server application, meaning the server is a native Windows application, but the client or user interface is a native Mac and Windows, and you can have multiple installed and multiple people can control the same software. It's a brand new product for EFI, and the core focus is on true shape nesting and double sided. If a file with a shape comes in, and it doesn't have to be small stickers like this, right? It can be super wide format, trade show backdrops, anything with a shape to it. If that comes into an rip, usually it's considered in rectangular because we are only picking up the bounding box, media box, or crop box, right? And since it's in rectangular, well, we can only place it like a rectangular. So obviously, if I place those here, I would use a lot of media. If I drop it in Prepit before it hits the rip, now Prepit would fully automatically take the shape, rotate it, move it inside of each other, lay it out, create print-ready PDF for print, and create a cut file for the cutter if I wanted to do that. And as you can see in this case here, it took 60 seconds to calculate, and it saved 130% or over half of the media than the other way around. So that's half the cost. And it will print twice as fast. Well, the printer will not be any faster, but the sheets will be out twice as fast using this product, right? And all that for $3,000. Quite nice. There's multiple workflows we can use Prepit. and I'm going to show two examples. So we would have the original files, usually PDFs, that hit the Prepit server. They would still be single in at this time. Then Prepit creates the layout and creates a print-ready PDF, which will hit the RIP. And it's completely RIP independent. It can be a generic PDF, for argument's sake, that goes to the Colorgate RIP here at the top. It could go to an Lambda, could go to an Indigo, doesn't matter. We also generate a dedicated Fiery file format. It's actually a combination of files. We generate a dedicated Caldera file format. We generate a dedicated Onyx file format. So it's really completely RIP independent. The print-ready layout hits the RIP. The RIP, obviously drives the printer and will print this file. This file would include already the cut marks for any cutter that's using round cut marks. Barcode, QR code, eye in the sky code, etc. It's all already part of that layout, including a label line as well. And then for the big flatbed cutters like a Sund, Kongsberg, Suma flatbed, who have their own software that can accept a cut file, Prepit will create a second file, which can be a ZCC file for the Sund, or in PDF for the Kongsberg or that flatbed Suma, which contains the cut path only and the location of the barcode, cut marks, etc. And basically the cutter will sit there and wait for the print job, and you tap the barcode, or the camera reads the QR code, and it will start cutting fully automated. And if everything goes right, we might be able to see that today. Fingers crossed. The other workflow is if you have a cutter that does not have its own software, that cannot accept PDF, AI, or ZCC, no problem. We can create a print-ready PDF file that goes into the RIP, and most RIPs are able to create cut paths themselves, right? And in this workflow now, all the cutters become available that the RIP support. So the Sumas, Graphtec of this world, etc., etc. There's one limitation to this workflow. If we have to rely on the RIP, then usually this layout is kind of fixed and finished, meaning the RIP can only place the cut marks around it, which will need a tiny bit of more space. And obviously you have some very big prints and flexible material that can result in a tiny bit of accuracy issues from a cutting standpoint. Therefore, the only thing that's a little bit RIP dependent is with Fiery XF. You have a value-add integration. We are shooting in addition an XML sidecar file, which explains Fiery XF to also place cut marks within the layout. So if your RIP happens to be Fiery XF, then you don't have to place it around. It will do it all inside, and we don't have those potential accuracy issues for super big files and stretchable material. But either way, Prepit is a standalone product, which is independent of the RIP, works before the RIP, multiple workflows. And yes, there happens to be a value-add Fiery integration.
Hey, Chris, there was a question online, two questions actually. One is the Fiery control, how many printers can it control? And then also the second is the pricing that you showed, the $495 for the job flow, and then the $3,000 for the Prepit. Is that annual or is that a one-time? How does that work?
Okay, so the first question was how many printers does
can Fiery control at one time?
Yeah. So Fiery Command Workstation is free of charge. It's our user interface that sees all the Fieries in the building. And now we very much have to differentiate about what printers, what Fiery. So and Lambda comes with a Fiery built-in. One-to-one relationship, Lambda and Fiery is the same thing. Same for the EFI Nozomi, printer and Fiery, same thing. In the cut sheet world, so in Xerox iGen, for example, also comes with a dedicated Fiery. So always one-to-one relationship. In the inkjet world, so Epson, Muto, Mimaki, EFI wide format, etc., it's considered, it's called Fiery XF. And Fiery XF can actually drive multiple printers from one RIP. I'm coming to the actual question. The Fiery Pro server that comes with an EFI printer will drive that one printer. Additional drivers have to be purchased. If you purchase a Fiery XF software only for an Epson, for example, we actually decoupled it from the driver, meaning you buy the core version for smaller money, and then you add as many drivers as you want to. So long story short, there's no physical limitation to how many drivers you can add, but each driver costs you some money. Sorry, what was the second part of the question? Oh, the pricing.
Like,
yeah, so
the pricing, is it one time, is it annual? How's that work?
Yeah, very good question. So Fiery Prep-It is $3,000. Perfect introduction to this slide. That's a one-time cost. It already includes the maintenance contract for the first year. Maintenance meaning phone support, email support, etc., and all updates and upgrades. That contract has a value of $600. In year 2, it's optional to buy that contract again, so you do not have to. So one-time cost, $3,000. Perfect question. Thank you. So once we're done with making our layout, the question is, what are we doing with the remaining media? And as you can see here on the left side, I have 3 sheets of boards that are full, and my 4th one is half empty. If this is roll media, no problem. We will simply cut, right? If these are boards, then what's going to happen is we allow the software to use a smaller board as last sheet, or we allow it to cut up the remaining white space into standard sheets so I can reuse them. So we have some smart strategies how to cope with the free media as well. Multiple levels of automation. I can do, of course, hot folder automation, 3 folders, incoming, outcoming print-ready PDF, and outcoming cut file for the cutter, right? When I say of course, I think it's of course, but a lot of competitive solutions cannot do any automation. So I guess it's not that obvious. We can do manual jobs. We can actually do semi-manual jobs or semi-automated jobs as well. And I will show that in my demo that we can already apply some automation to my jobs. And we have a notion of a .json file. So a .json file, end of the day, is a text file. That text file contains all the settings of a hot folder. So I could create multiple hot folders for multiple medias or whatever, or I can only create one hot folder, but send a .json file out of my switch workflow or my Fiery job flow workflow, and this .json file will overwrite the hot folder on the fly, and therefore I only need one hot folder, and I can dictate from the workflow how many copies I need, double-sided, yes, no, etc. One of our first customers, Supercolor, they're in the West Coast, US, a very big view tech customer. They're using the product since half a year, and they really teach us something about the product as well. So first of all, they're using Switch and Focus Switch, including the free of charge create.json app, and therefore automate the workflow. And what they really teach us is, because we were thinking small stickers, street signs, that kind of stuff, but they're doing super wide format, trade show backdrops, building wraps, etc. So everything that has a shape to it, they run through the system, and they're extremely happy with it. How do we stack up to the competition? So if we look in the competition, obviously price value is a point. So Prep-It is $3,000 one-time cost. If you look at Onyx TrueFit, it's a really nice product, but it does not have any, and it's priced at $2,000, but it does not have any automation. It's limited to, we're not quite sure actually if it's 20 or 25 files. So I put the maximum on the slide here. So 25 files maximum on one sheet. It's limited to 90 degrees. So you cannot do a free angle rotation. You can only do 90. And Onyx TrueFit does never place the cut marks. They always rely on the rip, right? So what I explained before, that if you rely on the rip, that you can only place it on the outside, and you might run in some cutting accuracy issues. That's exactly what Onyx TrueFit will have. Okay. Esco iCut, quite high price, with 5,000 euros one-time cost. Super cool product though, very powerful. It can do bleed, it can do fully automated creation of cut path, but it does not have an automation. So no hot folder automation, nothing. So you always have to do manual jobs. And frankly speaking, it's end of life, right? So it's not available anymore. Likely has to do with that Esco sold Kongsberg, and therefore the software does not have and value for them anymore. So good product, high priced, but no automation and not available anymore. Caldera Prime Center, really nice product as well. From a layout standpoint, very similar to what Prep-It can do. Very honest, it can do a little bit more because it can do PDF pre-flight, so the analyzation of a PDF, but it cannot fix a PDF. So our job flow is way more powerful, right? But I need to be fair, I can do a little bit more than prep it because it can do that pre-flight. With that said, it's 5,600 euros per year for their biggest version. So that's just insanely expensive. Usually you would calculate over 3 years or something like that. So you're looking at 15, 16, 17,000 euros compared to 3,000 euros or $3,000. So obviously the price value is just a completely different ballpark. But price is not everything. We want to look at the value as well. So here you see on test where we compared the products that I just mentioned. So you see on ESCO iCut for 100 of those stickers, 48-inch by 48-inch sheet, we needed 6 sheets. On Caldera Prime Standard, we needed 6 sheets. Onyx TrueFit, we needed 6 sheets. And on PrepIt, we needed 5 sheets. Or in percentage, we were able on this particular test to save 10 to 12% more media than the other products, which, most of them cost more than ours. So,
Chris, there's 2 questions online before we get to the demo. One is, does PrepIt have tiling features, in particular, wondering about jigsaw tiling, which I think that's what you showed, the nesting, the tiling, but you can talk through that. And then does PrepIt feed material usage back to systems like EFI Pace or the like, per part or per job?
Okay, good questions, because I don't have an answer for one of them and the other one is no. So those are good questions. So first, the tiling jigsaw. So PrepIt can definitely do tiling, rather sophisticated tiling, including overlaps, glue lines. It will also honor the original cut path. So if I have a big file with a cut path around it, I need to tile it. It will redraw the cut path, so it will cut it properly. Honestly, I don't know what a jigsaw tiling is, so someone will educate me and then I will follow up on that one. Then the second question was on the, so I can automate it incoming, so I can send a .json file and I can tell it what to do, but today there's no output automation yet. So it will obviously automated the PDF file and cut file, but it will not talk back yet about what's on the layout, how long did it take, it's finished, etc. So today an automation like in Switcher so needs to monitor the folder. But we are in process of developing a Switch app. We are in process in developing the integration to Fiery Job Flow. So we will see improvements of integrations in the future, but that's the status today. Very good question.
Yeah, the follow-up letter phrase import in jigsaw tiling allows you to select and then break up individual letters into their own tiles, and then allows for nesting. That was
so I can definitely nest my tiles. That is a limitation that FireXF, for example, has. It cannot do that, but PrepIt can nest the tiles. I can ignore certain tiles. I'm not sure if that 100% answers the question. But send me an email, chris.showalter@efi.com. I definitely want to follow up on that one and get a detailed answer.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Perfect. So let's look at the product. So actually, let me start with the ugly part, which is the preference window, right? So right here, my server is running a small icon here, and here I have my preference window. It's not the prettiest of the world, but you set this once, right? And the core idea is that here I can define my hot folders. So an input folder, an output folder, that's where the print-ready PDF goes in. So as mentioned, generic PDF. FireXF would be a PDF plus an XML file. Onyx dedicated PDF file, Caldera dedicated file, so very RIP independent. Then if I want to rely on my RIP to create the cut marks and cut file, I'm done. Or if I want to send in cut file directly to the cutter, that's where I'm defining my second output folder here. Second thing that's interesting is the media manager. So media, I mean, I'm a color guy. I usually think ink limit, etc. But in our case here, media means available sizes. And is it, and standard, meaning am I allowing the software to cut up the remaining sheets into those standards? Am I allowing it to use it as a last sheet? So it's basically the sizes and all the available tools or cutting strategies. So through cut, kiss cut, perforation, greasing, you know, all those things I can do in a cutter, I can assign them right here. I can also define the nesting strategies. Am I always allowing to do free angle rotation, or am I forcing it to do 90, 180 for street signs, or 180 for corrugated, etc., etc. I'm also defining my cut marks in here. And obviously I have automation as well. Actually, yeah, let's look at it real quick. I can define already some variables, and all of this can be overwritten by the .json file. I can define how to reassign spot colors or layers into my cut tools, and I will show why that's important. I can define my tiling here. You know, what are the size of the tilings? Do I need overlap, etc. My grommet marks, etc., etc. But enough of ugly settings. Let's look at the product. So I will first do a manual job, and it will run in an error. I'm going to warn you right away. That's on purpose because I want to show you something. So I'm loading my little bear here. I can already give the customer name, order ID. Why? Because we can actually group the jobs together by customer or order ID, for example. I define the media I want to use. Again, that defines the size and the available tools. How many do I want? Do 25, double-sided, one-sided, nesting, fully automated or manual. I want to do it manual because I want to show you how I'm pushing it through the system. So it will come in, it will start, analyze it, and it will run in a warning. Why? Because my designer defined a spot color as cut contour, but my media in the system expected through cut or kiss cut, right? So the software doesn't know what to do, and I can fix that in the automation. But I will have to fix this manually. So I'm opening the editor, and now I can start looking at what are the available vectors to me that could be my cut path. And you can see here on the right side, that's where my media is, and you can see the available cutting strategies per media, right? If I have a different media, there's different cutting strategies I have. So obviously the cut path is most likely this fella here. But that's very cumbersome to select it this way. It's way easier if I simply look into my spot colors. And yeah, guess what? I'm fairly sure my designer wanted me to use the cut contour spot color. Yep, that looks about right. I can now start tweak and tune my color, my spot color, my cut path, sorry. I can assign an offset. I can start moving it in, for example. Yeah, I can tweak and tune it. And then I can assign it to my cutting strategy. So in my case, I'm going to assign it to the through cut, right? I can also draw simple cut path. Example, do this here, because obviously I want to cut out this hole as well. So that's through cut. Maybe, you know, I want to have this here as kiss cut. You get the idea. So rather sophisticated tools to manipulate my cut path. I could now do the tiling as well, but I don't need this for this job. So I'm happy. Let's see if the software is happy as well. Yep, it's green. And since I did not have it set to auto nesting, therefore I need to send it manually over into my nesting queue. So in my nesting queue, my media created itself, and it will simply sit here and wait for additional files to be nested. And of course, I can set it up to wait for a certain amount of time, wait for a certain amount of percentage, etc. But I will just start this process manual. What will happen now is I have it set to try 60 different versions, and I can define that, of course, in the settings. So we'll start rotating my bears here and see if it can find some better layouts. And you might see the copy 3 here. That means that left sheet here, it's actually going to print this 3 times and the right sheet only 1 time. So as you can see, I already have my barcode. I have a label line. I have my cut marks. And you can also see the calculation. It keeps trying, but it doesn't find a lot better solution. So I can wait my 60 different layouts, which is roughly 60 seconds, or I can simply say, you know what, I'm accepting this. It will place my cut marks now also in between for added accuracy. And I could generate this file, or I can say, you know what, this was really the wrong sheet. I need different marks. Let's try again. So I'm hoping that one bear disappeared. It actually did, because it was before copies 2 here. So it was actually 3 sheets. It was able to get it onto 2 sheets. So that is quite some significant media saving. Again, I could wait, or I simply accept. It places the cut marks, this time only on the corners, because I changed my cut marks, right? I click on generate, and now it will create a cut file for my Sund Kongsberg Summa, etc., and a print ready PDF. So that was obviously quite simple. So let's do it a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to select a bunch of files, and again, I could just drop them in a hot folder. And now I'm assigning an automation. And this automation will already define my variables here, but it also does an assignment of that spot color into my cut path, right? But what I had to do manually, it's going to do that fully automated now. So if those come in, they should come in here, they should be analyzed, and they should all turn happy automatically. See, they all turn green. I could have set it up so it moves fully automated through, but for the demo, I like to push them through manually. So let's wait real quick while they come in. And I'm running this off a very small laptop. So if you install this on a server-grade machine, this will obviously be even faster. So it analyzed all those, and I'm sending it over into my nesting queue. And what it will do is it will create a media now for me and load them and wait for additional files to come in. While it's doing that, there was another question around if the Colex and Graphtec cutters are included in the RIP. So that's not a Prepit question, but a Fiery XF question. So if you go to EFI.com, Fiery for inkjet, and you will find supported printers and cutters. This is always the most accurate source. You go to supported cutters, and here you find the list of supported cutters. So we definitely have Colex, we have Graphtec as well, and then the question is, is your particular cutter supported or not? And it will tell you what product option you need to support it. Okay, so in this case here, I would need the cut servo option, which is $500. Okay, good question. Thank you. In the meanwhile, this media created itself. I have all my files in here. I could wait now for my time limit, or I start this manually again. And now, of course, a lot more is going to happen. I forget how many of those were, like 10 different files or so, 20 copies each. And you can see how it starts flipping, rotating, merging, moving it inside of each other. And as a matter of fact, I believe I used the wrong media size. So let's fix that. All right. So this is a 48-inch by 48-inch sheet, which Bruce happens to have loaded on his printer. As you can see, it needs 3 different sheets just for that little, what's that? I keep forgetting about Flamingo.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get rid of that flamingo. if everything goes as planned. All right, I was able to squeeze it on 2 sheets. I'm happy with this layout, so I'm going to accept this. And once it created the preview for me, I will send 2 files over into Manchester. One is the print-ready PDF, and the other one is the cut file. With that, I give it to Bruce.
Hey, Bruce, I'm going to make you presenter. That's it. Thanks. As we're doing this, so that, Chris, thanks for showing that. That was a good use. FireXF for the savings, the overall savings. There was a question on, can you adjust the minimum spacing for prep it? I think you talked about that a little bit, but that's something that's completely.
Most definitely, you said that in the media settings, you can define how much it should be spaced apart. Yeah.
Perfect. Bruce, you should have it from here.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Chris. So I just got the file that Chris sent, so I am going to go ahead and rip that. This is the EFI Pro 30H. It is the newest printer in our hybrid market. It does come standard with Fiery on board. So with that, I am able to rip the job directly from here and import it into the printer. That is ripping. Go ahead and start a print and talk a little about the printer. So as I mentioned, this is a hybrid printer, so we can print on the rolled or flexible material as well as rigid. So I'll let this do a few prints, then I will do the prints that Chris worked up for us. And after that's done, I will cut these off because we are going to actually take these sheets over to the cutter. We have a Zun, and we will cut what Chris just used to prep it for. We'll print it here and again cut it. Now I will show you the changeover from the roll to roll to rigid. It is very easy and a very quick process. Right now we are running in our express mode. This is going to be about 2,600 square feet per hour. So you can print the full width. It is a 3-meter printer, 126 inches. Since I only have one roll on the carriage, it's only going to travel where the material is. So you do pick up a little bit of efficiency there. You're not wasting time having the carriage travel all the way across if you're only using one section of the bed here. And pause the print while you're printing, so you can feed the material through just under this front roller. Start the print, pause when you get down to the take-up winder here, attach it, and then the resume printing. So as far as media waste, when you are running roll to roll, you're looking at 12 to 18 inches or so. You do not have to attach to the take-up winder. You can have these just free fall onto the ground. And that's going to be dependent on what you're running. Looks like the file's finished ripping, so I'm going to go ahead and start the print. Page 1 is ready, so we'll go ahead and start with that one.
And again, Bruce, for the Pro 30H, there's a full-blown Fiery Pro server built into it, right? So it has all the features of Fire for Display Graphics built right into the printer.
That's correct. So that's how I was able to receive the job from Chris, rip it, and now print it, all using just the one computer. So I am printing this one in our distant mode. So this is going to be about 1,100 square feet per hour. This printer is relatively quiet compared to some of our other ones. That's going to be due to this magnetic linear drive here that we have. That's what pulls the carriage left to right. In our older models, we had it was a traditional belt and pulley system. Having this mag drive really helps reduce vibration and chatter, so you get really accurate drop placements. So from here, I am going to go ahead and pause this. So again, we can pause and resume. So if you do happen to notice, maybe a wrinkle forming or any sort of jet out, you do have the ability to pause and then send the carriage home and purge. So these do use LED lamps to cure the ink. You'll notice that the lamps are only going to be on as they're traveling over the printed material. The lamps are rated for 20,000 hours. They're basically designed to outlive the life of the printer. The 20,000 hours is only when the lamps are on. So having them only turn on when they're traveling over the material really helps that life, get us that 20,000 hours. You'll notice once the carriage goes home, the lamps will turn off. They are instant on and instant off. No warm-up time. Different from your traditional mercury arc where you have a little bit of a warm-up time. You'll also have really good color consistency when it comes to curing. With mercury arc, you tend to have a bell curve where the lamp power at hour 1 is different from the lamp power at hour 500 and hour 1000. On here, basically hour 1 will be the same as hour 20,000. Talk about that repeatability of color. The LED really helps with that. I'm going to switch around to the rear camera. Show you a little bit about the feeding. So the first thing you'll notice on the back here is that we do have a second monitor built in. This is fully touchscreen, so anything you can do on the front, you can do on the back. Mirrored screen of what's on the front, but it does give the operator the ability to work from the back. They can rip jobs from back here, set up a bunch of different jobs to print, change any sort of settings. There's a third set of controls over here on the right-hand side. Again, so depending where the operator is, they're never far, more than an arm's reach away from engaging a print, loading material, things like that. So if you're a one-man show like I am today, it makes operating this printer really easy because you're never more than arm's reach away from a set of controls. We also have this redirect bar here. This comes standard with the printer. It's not an add-on. Big benefit of that is if you're running 3-meter material, that's going to help get rid of that smiley face artifact that you sometimes see. Same with any really thin material. This will help kind of mitigate those wrinkles. It helps keep the material flat as it's going in. If you did not want to use this, I was only running 1 roll of PSA. I'm not worried about wrinkling, so I fed it directly under that ruler there. Here I am going to go ahead and cut this material off. Switch over to rigid material. Go the other way, we would go from sheet to roll. Have this table that we will attach. ready to this printer does come standard with 6 individual vacuum zones. You're going to have 4 vacuum zones in the front, and then 2 in the back. And the reason for that is if you're running multiple boards through the printer at a time, the fence will drop down and you'll load the sheet up to the fence. You don't want the vacuum on when you're trying to load the sheet against the fence, so the vacuum will shut off until you engage the print, and the rear vacuum will turn on. Vacuums in the front will be on the entirety of the print. Back here, this is touchscreen, so I have my print loaded. I basically took the 2 sheets that Chris sent over. I nested them together in Fiery. Those. Now, the first thing the software is going to do is ask us if we'd like to measure the height of the, that would be what we call setting the carriage gap. In this case, we are going to click yes. So the carriage will lift to its highest position, then move over to a predetermined point and lower down until it little foot in there that will, it's a sensor that will sense the material. Once that is triggered, the software will know the height of the material. It's going from different material really easy. No need for any operator to do any sort of manual measurements. So the carriage has found the height. Here's the print. This is just a 4x8 sheet of chloroplast. I am running this in our express mode, so that's going to be that 2,600 square feet per hour. So notice again that the carriage is only traveling where the material is. And are there any questions on anything so far?
There was one question that came in that said, or can we fully edge-to-edge printing on any media? And then the second was on is the nesting, I think the spacing for the nested elements based on die line or artwork bleed. I think that second question is probably for Chris, but or maybe both. Are we doing any edge-to-edge printing on this, or is there a margin on the print?
Nope. So you can print edge to edge. In this case, I basically took the file that Chris had created. They were about 48 by 48 inches. So I did create a 0 to 1, so print edge.
Great. And then the spacing for the nested elements, Chris, is that on the die line or the artwork bleed? Is that?
I'm actually running a test in parallel because I wasn't quite sure. It looks
Okay.
like it's based on the die line.
Die line. Okay. Okay. Perfect.
So if we want, we do have the camera set up on the cutter, so I can
Yeah.
put it over there. So
Well, I think Bruce, and again, just as we're running close to the hour, but it'd be good to kind of show that. But I think, again, as a recap, you showed a lot of productivity features built right into the system itself. Everything from starting with length of the carriage run, where the carriage is only going to run the length of the printer, so that's it's as efficient as possible, or the length of the print, so it's as efficient as possible on the print itself. And we built a lot of things into the printer, like the 30H, for operator productivity. Like we talked about those dual screen monitors, right? So one operator can manage that front back. They don't have to run around the machine, so it's available to them all the time. Another thing we talked about, you talked a little bit about, is this idea of continuous board, that you can start one job, as the job is printing, as it's finishing up, you can prep the next board to print before the first one's done. So as soon as that one's done, the next board goes in. Again, making that operator as efficient as possible for that work. And then things like auto height detection and pause and resume. These are all features built in to make sure that we're as efficient as possible with the media, the prints. The operator can, again, single operator can run this whole printer.
Very easy for a one-man show. You know, as you saw, I have my coworker Darren in the background, mainly running the camera. Serial cutter for me, but as far as it's very easy and efficient for one person to run. Saw the changeover from you know, rigid. One thing I did not mention is that you are able to leave those rolls on. So we saw that I just cut the roll off, left it hanging on the back side of the printer there. Have a job that comes in really quick, a rush job that, maybe a couple 4x8 sheets of chloroplast, and you were in the middle of running 3-meter banner. You can just finish your print on the banner, cut it off, throw the few sheets of chloroplast through, and then go right back to the banner. Just to take off, I mean, the changeover, as I said, was really just a button in the software that you select. So really simple, really easy.
Perfect. Is there any other questions that we have? I don't see any directly online right now. But if again, the cutter in action. Somebody said, let's see the cutter in action. So that would be kind of interesting. So we take that and move it over there. So again, the idea of this file automatically nested, what Chris showed. So how do we take something automatically nested, maximize the use of the media? You can see the way that the layout is. Cut marks are already in. The die lines are already set up. So this was the print that we did earlier on the roll print that's over on the cutter. But with that, so automatically ripped on the printer, built in with Fiery Pro Server, using all the tools on the printer itself. Now that output set on the cutter, ready to go in, and it's analyzes and goes.
Yep, and as I mentioned, this is a Zund that we're using. That's what we have. So we have the marks set up that Chris put on Zund. So you can see it's going through and cutting everything based on the cut path that was in the file.
And I don't know how many elements there are in this, 100 and whatever. It may take a minute so we can see. But again, completely automated from the way it was nested, printed, and now on the cutter. There was nothing that the operators had to do other than import the files and set up do the setup in there. So again, it's all right.
And while the full sheet would have taken a while, it's actually also optimizing the cut path in a way that the time it moves from one element to another is as limited as possible, right? So it will stop cutting as close as possible to the next element, therefore reduce the non-cutting time.
I will say one of the features that I like most about this Graphtec is the ability to have these registration marks not just on the outside, anywhere on the sheet where they can fit them. So it does give us a little more accuracy when registering. Same thing with printing on a 48x48 sheet. Normally I would be limited with the Fiery software, the way it works, to just having the marks on the outside. So that 48-inch sheet really becomes 47. So you do use space there. But with the ability to have the marks intertwined between the artwork, you do pick up space.
Excellent. So the idea of this and what we wanted to walk through this example today is really, again, as much automation as possible in the overall process. Really, the only two manual steps that we saw, right? Chris imported the file, loading of the media and moving of the media to the cutter. That's really the two manual steps. Everything else is automated in the process, generally in there. So, again, leveraging as much of the printer as we can for efficiency, as leveraging as much of the software as we can. That's really what we see going. So doing more work with less operator time or less operator action. Let's see. If there's any other questions? I don't know. Can the cutter? Okay, so if we only had my checkbook, I love that one. Can the cutter take heavy stock? I think that'll, those will be up to the individual cutter. The printers can handle. Bruce, what's the thickness of the stock that the print that 30H can handle?
So it'll print up to 2 inches.
2 inches. And 200 pounds, I think. So like if you have a true heavyweight stock, I believe that's the weight limit. You correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think somebody asked me that the other day. So it can take that work there. And then the cutter, it depends on the cutter itself. So the one you have. I don't know what the Zund has.
I did have 2 questions, Dan, that looked like they might have come just privately to me.
Okay.
Someone asked how many passes are in Express. That's going to be our 1 pass. So that's the fastest mode we have on the printer. And then someone else asked, is the $1,590 a yearly charge fee?
Yeah, I think we talked to that one already. For Prep It, all the prices that were shown were the one-time charge, and then there's an annual maintenance charge, which is significantly less. Net annual.
So one-time charge $3,000, and the maintenance is $600 included in the first year, and optional in year 2.
Yeah, that's for updates as well as phone support. On the product. Good. We're just a couple minutes over the hour, so again, we appreciate everybody's time for here. We can stay on and take any other questions or take any other feedback, and please provide that feedback if there's any questions or feedback even afterwards. Send them through to your EFI representative or our partner, or any of our authorized partners. Be happy to take any of those questions. I don't see any other questions right now, but please feel free. Any other final items? I'm going to stop, take over for a minute, and I want to become presenter because I want to just share contact info. We had a couple of so if there are any follow-up questions, we've got, and we can send this out to there. Chris Showalter at EFI.com, not gmail.com, like you said. Chris, thanks. And here's the number. And then Bruce, thanks for the time there, Bruce. Bruce Bain at EFI.com. Happy to answer any questions on either of the products that we have or any of the EFI, any of the other EFI products as well. So again, thank you all for the time. I'll look to see if there's any final questions. Let's see if there's this one. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. I don't see. Let's see here. Any other chat? Again, thanks all for the time today. We'll look to end this. Again, feel free to leave. We'll keep it open for a little bit longer if there are any other questions. But again, thanks for your time here this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're at in the world.
Thank you, everyone.